Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Johnson. I'm a psychic medium from jojoempathic.com. And in today's video, I have a message on grief healing. So today I want to dive into some practical and spiritual tips to help you to love more deeply through grief. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you already have not. Please drop a comment with any comments that you have from today's message. And I also am open to prayer requests. So if you have a prayer request that maybe you'd like me to help pray with you over, drop a comment. You can also feel free to send me an email, jojo@jojoempathic.com. I also have a contact forum on my website, jojoempathic.com, where you can drop in prayer requests as well. And I'm happy to help join you in prayer. So this is a really powerful message today. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. Let's go ahead and get started. So how to love through grief. The first point I want to talk about is what is love? Okay. So love is the frequency of unity. It is a dissolving of separation. So in a sense, we can look at love as positive ownership. I am taking something on as my own. When what I'm taking on, whether it's a person, a place, or an inanimate object like your vehicle, when it hurts, you hurt. Okay. When it's going through something, you step in to help bring support. You feel responsible for someone else's care in a sense. So when we think of what we truly love, we are becoming one with it. It's unconditional. It's a unity. It reminds us that we are all from one source. It's also a deep level of acceptance and appreciation. Often we can decipher and see the truth with discernment of what is love versus what is ego by looking into how are the acts of love being acted out? Is somebody accepting this other person, or is someone trying to control this other person, trying to tell them how to live, how to be, how to think? Love is fully accepting someone else's autonomy. Okay, so yes, Jordan, you think this way, I think this way, but I still love you so much. I still want you in my presence. I still want to be connected with you and see how you're doing. When you go through this, I feel for you. I love you. I want to lift you up. That's what love is. And we all on earth experience love. It seems to be a fundamental truth that exists within this universe is that love is the highest frequency we can embody, we can share, and we can give. And it doesn't matter if you are in the Western world, in the Eastern world, doesn't matter where you are on Earth. We all have this capacity to love, and it makes the world go round. So love respects boundaries, okay? And in fact, it will actually walk away before it siphons or harvests or oversteps boundaries. So when we really love one another, we say, look, this person may need space. I'm not going to put my hands in the pot and get involved where I don't belong. I respect this person's personal boundaries. A lot of times, also with love, sometimes people need space, sometimes they need separation, and true love lasts even through distance, even through space. And that's how you really know when you actually really, really love someone is when there is a bit of a break, when there is a little bit of a separation, and you still can come back full swing and have joy, have love, have connection, and say, this is someone I vibe with. This is someone I truly love. When we love, we have the care factor. So, loving someone or something, there is a sense of empathy tying into that positive ownership. When my dog hurts, I hurt. I don't want to see that my dog in pain. When my dog is crying, I feel for my dog. If we have someone that we love, it's a human. When they're going through an illness, it personally affects me. I feel grief when they're going through a hard time. So there is this care factor when you really love somebody. It brings you into this place of unity as a frequency and resonance. And love reminds us of our creative force energy. period. Okay, so when we love, it reminds us that we are part of divine expansion and divine creation. Okay, so this is why we are all so hooked on love. This is why love runs the world. This is why love heals, it guides, and it is the top, highest frequency we can embody. Now, when we grieve, we often don't feel love. We actually feel the complete opposite. So this video is going to give you some practical tips, about 7 different tips to help you to love through grief, okay? And grief can happen with a lot of different things, not just the death and transition of a loved one, okay? So I'm going to break that down, but this video primarily is speaking to those that may have lost a loved one in transition to the other side. So I want to speak to that first, and then we're going to get into what is grief. One of the things I want you to understand, dear one, is that soul contracts don't end at physical death, like we are conditioned to believe. Physical life is just one chapter of a sacred soul agreement between you two. Exit points within someone's life contract, or you could say potential death points, trigger things, okay, like a ripple effect. Exit points, transition of a loved one, and this also extends to loss of job, loss of home, loss of a relationship, loss of self, okay? It cat it catapults growth. It triggers spiritual awakening. It redirects destiny. It closes karmic loops. It is for a higher purpose, and it is on divine time, in agreement with you, me, the universe, the soul, the whole. The love remains, the form changes. So, what is grief? If you could start to look at grief like a sacred initiation, it may deeply, deeply help you on your grief journey. Grief is actually holy, it is sacred, it is something that needs to be protected, given thought to, processed. I personally, this is just Jojo's definition of grief, is the physical, mental, and emotional response to loss. We grieve more than we notice. This is more than just the transition or death of a loved one, like I had said. When you switch jobs, even if it was a peaceful transition, let's say you've received the dream job offer of your life, but you worked with a company for the past 25 years, there still can be grief that happens with the last job. Even though you happily said goodbye to all your friends and you're on to something bigger and better, you still can grieve that job, the location, the friends there, your coworkers, and also the part of yourself that was in that role, because that part of you is essentially transitioning higher as well. We often feel grief within relationships, and this is very clear in divorce. That's probably one of the clearest forms of grieving in outside of losing somebody to death, but divorce is a huge one. If you notice, some people that go through divorce never marry again. They can't. They won't allow themselves because that grief process has a hold on them. They never fully learned how to process separation, the identity loss that comes with divorce. You no longer are a married person, husband or wife. That title is gone. Okay. So relationship separation is a huge one. But also, let's say you start dating somebody and you find out, like when shit hits the fan, that they're not the person that you fell in love with. There's a part of you that grieves that person that you thought this person was, okay? That the person you were with this person. Grief happens all the time. We grieve so much more than we would know. This also happens outside of relationships with other people. Let's say you grew up in your childhood home and something happens with your parents where they have to put the house into foreclosure and you lose that childhood home, you can actually feel a deep level of grief from losing that location. Let's say you raised your kids in an apartment and it's a happy time to move into a house you just built with your spouse. You can still grieve the loss of that apartment that has all of those memories that you raised your children in. So it can be still a sweet moment where grief can be triggered. We also can grieve old coping mechanisms. So a lot of times as we heal through life, we no longer resonate with the old coping mechanisms that we once clung on to as a safety net. So once we hit a level of healing and self-development, we ascend higher than what that coping mechanism once did for us. And at a point, although we're making healthy steps forward, there can be a part of you that's grieving that behavior, that pattern. I used to go to bed with a bag of potato chips every night. Now I'm not even doing that anymore because I've got that under control. But there was a part of me that found safety and going to bed with a bag of potato chips. Okay. I'm grieving that part of myself. I'm grieving that habit. Now I feel a sense of a bit of loss, even though I'm on a higher track. And um, we still have to acknowledge it as grief. And this is a lot of times why, when we look at addiction clearing, there's so much relapse because we are not grieving that part of ourself that had the identity attached to the addiction, the habit, the coping mechanism. So again, if you see a pattern here, even though we are doing healthy things to advance our self-development, it doesn't mean that grief can't be felt. We often will feel grief with a loss of fortune or monetary gains. So I see this often when I read people. People will lose everything to gambling. Sometimes there's huge, job loss where they have to go through their entire life savings just to maintain. Um, People are robbed, especially in today's world. There's a lot of fraudsters out there where people get all of their life savings stolen from them. That deep sense of shock and loss is a huge grief for many people. When we go through a violation, such as someone stealing from us, or a deep level of betrayal, it can also trigger grief, loss of self, crisis, and shock. So there are levels to grief. There's depth to grief. So we really don't want to judge when we're grieving, judging ourselves or others when they're grieving, how they're responding in healing through their grief journey. So let's also break that down a little bit more because often we will almost bypass someone else's grief and hurt and pain. For example, let's say somebody lost their dog and that shakes their entire world to the point of where they can't even go to work anymore. They lose their job, they go become homeless, they're on the street. It's like we judge that person like, oh my God, you lost an animal. There's starving children in the world, but time out. We don't know that connection to that from that person to that animal. Let's give it a deeper example here. What if that person grew up being tortured and they ended up in an orphanage, were taken from their family because they were going through a tremendous amount of abuse in childhood, and they were in and out of foster homes and orphanages throughout their life. And at 18, this person finally broke free from those systems and found a sense of freedom and empowerment for the first time in their lives. One of the first things that individual did was buy a dog, buy a pet. And that pet meant so much to that person. It was their first true companion, their first real support, their first real connection of love in their life. And so 15 years later, when that dog dies, although this individual has gone through a lot of healing, it cracks them open. It breaks the heart down. It's a humongous loss for this person. That dog was what they felt, maybe all that they literally had as a connection to love. So we can't judge other people. So when they, lose a dog or a cat, they're crying, hysterically. Don't judge. You don't know what that animal meant to people. Understand Animals are part of the hierarchy. They work with angels very closely. And people that have a lot of pets, pet owners will say they resonate with that message because they see it. Okay, they are healers. They are part of all of this and super important. So there's levels to grief. Um, it may seem like the loss of a human to some maybe more in depth than, let's say, the loss of, let's say, a pet or a home, but it can be life shaking and changing for everyone. So grief is like a shockwave, like a shockwave, and it makes you feel empty. It makes you feel incomplete. But grief isn't the opposite of love. It is love where there is nowhere to land. It is love that's lost its physical anchor. You have to remember that you're still sending love energetically through a bond, but that bond has shifted dimensions. So grief is love in transition. So some of the signs that we're in grief, we don't really feel like loving. If you've ever gone through moments of grief, maybe you're grieving right now, and when it's really heightened, you may not want to do literally anything. You may not want to get out of bed. You may not want to eat. You may not want to shower. You feel this sense of emptiness, sense of disconnection, like you don't belong here, like you don't know what to do. There are phases of grief. You don't want to rush the timeline, okay? And often we go between the different phases, we bounce back and forth. You may feel a deep level of sorrow, disinterest, like you're not motivated. You might just tune out. So grief really shakes the heart and the root chakra. Both your heart and your root chakra become dysregulated, which will affect your nervous system, your breath, anxiety, your mental health, your emotional health. Okay. So you are grieving a part of yourself that existed with the person, with the place, with the thing. And grief is an echo of connection. It's also evidence of sacred love, right? So in these moments where we're deeply grieving, we don't want to do anything. People are texting us, people are calling to check in if we're okay, and we're just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Leave me the heck alone. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know my pain. We tend to put a wall up when we're grieving. We just want to isolate. That's human nature, tied to the ego, fear, manipulation, and control. It's part of what we've been conditioned to do in moments of deep vulnerability where we feel out of control. It's a way we can control. Enough. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Leave me the heck alone. Okay. So here's 7 messages for you. If this sounds like you, and maybe you don't feel a sense of purpose, peace, or love at all, including for yourself or really anything. You don't love food anymore. You don't love playing tennis when you once used to love playing tennis. You don't love to even walk the dog anymore when you used to love to go on a grounding walk every morning. You don't love anything right now, and that's okay. A lot of times the church will tell you, you must always love, you must always talk to God politely. And it's Jojo empathic. I'll say, you need to be as real as you can with spirit, period. So if you're saying to God, I hate you, I can't believe you've done this to me, F this, F you, F every, allow yourself that safe space. Allow yourself to run through um, the processing of grief in whatever way that looks like for you. Okay. We got to get out of that judgmental belief of God judging you for feeling hatred, God judging you for being angry, some mean man on a throne, judging you for the loss of your child, and you're saying F you to God. That's not the truth. If you feel it, say it. And as long as you're not going out and doing harm, but that's part of what I would say a healthy spiritual healing process is to just be as real as you can, to not bypass the anger, to not bypass how you're really feeling and the hatred that does come with grief. So number 1, The first thing I want you to do is remember your truth, okay? In the moment of grief, those moments where you're just laying in bed and you don't have the energy to think, you don't have the energy to get up and make yourself some breakfast or go take a shower. I want you to close your eyes and remember your truth. What is your truth? Ask your soul, ask your spirit team, ask your angels. You might also begin to ask the person maybe that just passed away on the other side to help reveal your truth to you, help you to remember your truth. Your spirit guides and loved ones on the other side, they absolutely love, 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 love to help you remember your truth. They're all about truth, higher truth. Okay. What is your mission here on earth? Maybe you've never found it. Maybe you don't know. When we're lost, it's actually a good thing because you can't be found until you're lost. So you have to see from a higher perspective that what you're going through is a journey home. It's a journey home. So if you put that thought out into the universe, spirit, source, universe, God, whatever you call, goddess, loved one on the other side, what is my mission? What is my purpose? And even if you don't receive it back in that moment, the universe is working with you. The universe always hears you and is in support of you and your mission. You've come here divinely to enact out your mission. So begin to have this type of mindset of, I need to remember my truth every day. And that'll bring you closer to your morals. And when you remember your morals, this is like your light compass. Your ethics and morals for how you live is your light, is your compass on earth, even through the dark forest, even through the valley. Your light, your source comes from within you, and you can't forget that. It's not outside of you. It's not some mean man on a throne. Source runs through you. And through these moments, you find source. You find your strength. And that is a higher perspective, understanding of why you may be going through the grief process. And in that process of remembering your truth, mission, and morals, when you tap into your light compass, you remember what really matters to you. Like relationships, okay? And keeping your word. You have to remember that you have to keep living, and you will keep living. So remembering your truth is an act of pure love, love for yourself and others. I want to touch a little bit deeper on what matters to you, like relationships. So let's say you just lost a spouse and simultaneously you've reconnected with, let's say, a sibling that you haven't talked to for 36 years, but just in the past few months, your estranged brother or sister comes back into your life and you've made a vow to yourself that you've missed them. You almost regret the time not together, and you really, really, really want to keep that relationship going this time. And that's usually how it works. When you really start to level up, the universe will come in with initiations, with tests, with dismantling events to say, really? Do you really want that? And this is one thing I want you to trust me on is if you have a relationship like this, or maybe it's just a parent, a cousin, an aunt or uncle that you love and you want to maintain the relationship with them. Not saying don't disrespect your sacred isolation and boundaries, but you have to think like this relationship does matter. So I do want to at least acknowledge them. So if you want to keep your word to this brother, sibling that has been out of your life for so long, just shoot them a text. Just shoot them a text and say the truth. I'm not feeling good. I don't really want to talk, but I do want to acknowledge you. I do want to let you know I will get back to you when I'm feeling better. I don't know when that'll be, but I see you texted me and I want to acknowledge you. Okay. So you have to remember what really matters to you and follow through with what you can, with what you can. It's a pure act of love. Number 2, give what you can, but first fill your own cup. Service to others heals. And it also shows you the next steps in your journey. So this is a pure act of loving others. Okay. So you might be saying, Jojo, I can't even brush my teeth. Okay. I just lost 7 family members in a horrible bus accident. It's something just outrageous. It's like, I can't even brush my teeth right now, Jojo. How can I go and be of service? You might be surprised. You might be surprised that through your grieving journey, you might find life again through acts of service, through being compassionate with other people, through extending your empathy with those that maybe have gone through a tragic trauma just like you did, in support groups, and sharing your story as an act of service. Someone can learn from your story and go higher. It gives them hope. Maybe it's, okay, I feel completely shaken right now, but I love animals. So one thing that might be good for me every week is just to get up on Friday and go volunteer at an animal shelter. Right now, I don't feel like doing anything, but you know what? I'm going to go and volunteer at a soup kitchen just once a month. Little acts of service transform you. And it also caters to the openness of your heart at this time. And we say, well, I don't want to get even more vulnerable to watch that, but someone else suffer what I'm suffering. You might be surprised to find that sense of connection through acts of service. It might be just to go donate. You've got all of these books on your shelf. Every time you pass them, you get really, really upset because they remind you of your deceased mother. And, she used to love it, but you don't even want them. Maybe you just go donate them to a cousin. Maybe you go bring them off to the Salvation Army. Acts of service can look very, very different per person. And you'll know and you'll be inspired in these moments of grief to give. And it really shows you your strength in this moment when you still can give, okay, when it feels like you have nothing. So the first step is obviously to fill your own cup, which will bring us to step 3, energy hygiene. This is an act of self-love that you want to try to practice every single day, okay? Loving yourself through the collapse. So this would be energy grounding, energy clearing, and energy shielding every day. First thing when you wake up, maybe midday, and before you go to bed, maybe 3 times a day. Start with maybe just once, then twice, then 3 times. This is going to lift you up. Now, this is also a practice of the law of detachment, which is one of my most favorite laws. But I want to be clear that you're not distracting or numbing yourself. You're just setting healthy boundaries with the energetic world, which will lift you up. It'll raise your vibration. Every day, you can stand on Epsom salt in the shower and let the salt pull any energy that's not your own out. That is one of the most powerful clearing techniques you can do. Visualization, visualizing energy that's not your own leaving, any fear, doubt, limitation, lack, mindset. I release, I release, I release. I no longer hold. Okay, and putting a shield of light around me. I will not pick up others' thoughts, others' feelings, others' emotions. I will just be responsible for my own energy today because that's all I can do. And that's something we all need to be practicing every single day. We need to teach children this. This is a great technique for your children who may be grieving. Okay. And this really develops this helps with a sense of self-awareness and self-regard. And this is one of the most powerful ways to love yourself through the collapse, keeping your vibration high, and it'll help you to think from a more balanced state. If you are not corded over here, energy cords pulling you in this direction, staying in a group chat with people that are just out of control and don't respect boundaries, you cut the cord, you do what you can for you, and you have to remember that you have to keep living. You have to keep taking care of yourself. Okay. And you need to practice energy maintenance every single day. It'll help you to feel so much better to not carry on with you someone else's energy, which leads to number 4. Find the honor Honor gives us a reason to love and a reason to live. I challenge you to begin to walk with honor. Honor those that walk before you. Honor those that taught you. Honor those that helped you. Honor those that are no longer with us. So their pain, their suffering no longer goes in vain. There is something bigger that you're taking. This is called black magic, chaos magic. You're taking a negativity, the death of somebody you love, and turning it higher. It is completely traumatic, but I've learned that there's a need here, and I'm going to go out and serve more deeply from what I just witnessed. Loving through grief means letting love evolve. We try to move on, but spiritually, love never moves on. It moves inward. Okay. First, love is shared externally. After loss, love becomes internalized wisdom. You begin to develop a deeper faith. Your relationship shifts and transforms to invisible guidance. Okay. So energy never dies. That's the first thing I want you to remember if you've lost somebody very significant to you. Energy never dies. They've lost their physical body. Okay, but the awareness of them still exists. And you will feel it. You will see it. You will know it. All of your senses are part of a biospiritual ecology that helps you to sense energy. And as hard as it may seem, the physical body is no longer here. The awareness, the consciousness never dies. Okay, so you are shifting love through grief. And when you find the honor, it will help you to live more passionately and deeply in honor of them. Number 5, allow yourself the safe space to feel the ups and downs of grief. Okay. So give yourself time to process the emotional roller coaster of grief. So you may need a lot of rest. You might have bouts of anger and rage. You might have crying spells that feel uncontrollable. You might be confused. You might have regrets. Don't rush the waves. Let relief and support exist. This is an act of self-love and healthy healing, healthy grief healing. A lot of times, like I said, we are going through feelings that are what may feel like uncontrollable. Things that have been repressed are now broken open. And you have to allow yourself that vulnerability. You can't escape it. You have to be it. You have to be in it. You have to feel through it. And that's how it gets better with time. Number 6, balance your heart and root chakras. This will help you to allow love in again. Kind of going back into point 5, where let relief exist, let support exist, let love exist. Again, a lot of times we close off. I cannot love again because I cannot grieve again. I cannot seek support right now. I'll look like a coward. A lot of men will say that, okay? They have to hold their, masculine ego and tough guy. But the truth is, you have to let relief come in. You have to let support come in. You have to let love flow again. So the best thing to do when you're balancing your heart and root is to integrate. Integrate every relationship, okay? Every loss. You have to remember that every loss or relationship activates a unique frequency within us. Grief is the disorientation of losing that reflected frequency. Integrate the part of you that this person helped awaken in you. And grief will dismantle your identity. So you have to get good through life at not holding on to identity as much as your soul. The soul is forever. The identity is temporary. And our identity shifts throughout life. For example, as a child, you're a child. You have parents. You get older, you become a parent, that title. Then you get married, you have a new title. Get divorced and a new title. You get a job, you get this title. You go to school, you have that title. You go to get another degree, then you have another title. I mean, our identity is fluid. It's fluid. And a lot of people that struggle in life, you'll notice they don't have a stable sense of self because this is a fact that identity changes. But those that are in the same paradigm, under the same laws of the universe, law is God, God is law and order, okay? The ones that are stable in themselves are the people that are connected to their soul. I'll repeat that. Our identity is fluid, but the ones that have stable mind and stable heart are those that know who they are on soul level, okay? You have to understand that it's okay to have your identity dismantled. It's in fact on purpose. And somewhere before you came to Earth, you signed on to go through these experiences to have your identity and your identity dismantled. Okay, usually it's charted, it's on time, and it is a sense of order in ways in this moment we cannot see. Understand that your nervous system expands through heartbreak, chaos magic. It's part of this paradigm. Grief stretches the heart's energetic field, and so your capacity to love actually widens. Dear one, remember that the cracking open of your heart was not punishment. It is an initiation sacredly into more expansion. The final step here, number 7, allow yourself to spiritually awaken. This is huge. And this is where a lot of times some people don't. And they can't get past their grief. And they can't get past trauma. And their identity becomes tied to trauma. A lot of times, due to Western medicine, we will spiritually awaken and we run and get pills. We get a diagnosis of some sort of mental disorder. Understand this, okay? Grief is a portal, not a pit. It is a portal. It's an alchemical event, process that we all go through. Don't escape, don't run, don't hide. This is what I'm guilty of doing. This is what we're all guilty of doing. It's human nature tied to the ego. But rather step into the initiation chamber. Because grief strips illusion. It dissolves ego. It softens our defense. And it recalibrates within us what really matters. Because of that deep, deep, deep sacred holy initiation, you have to understand that spiritual awakening is triggered by grief. This is not taught in Western medicine, okay? But it is true. And your spiritual awakening, here's a big point. It can happen before the loss. So you might start to spiritually awaken before someone actually passes away, during their transition process, or directly after. But I guarantee spiritual awakening will happen through some part of that grief. Before loss, during loss, or after. This is scientifically studied. Trauma activates intuitive intelligence increases. It is a tactic of warfare. Ask survivors of abuse. Of right now, what's common right now, the whole Epstein case. Okay, there are survivors that have talked about being used as spies, okay, from different countries. And one of the ways that they were trained is they would go through a trauma and it would activate their intuitive intelligence. So it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. Kind of like the angels, don't care if you know you're a medium. They don't care. They will come in and give you the divine thought. So will your loved ones on the other side. Okay, so it's to your advantage to know who you are spiritually and help yourself by understanding the language in that process, number one. But number two, trauma will give you an intuition increase. Okay, so after someone dies, you will become more intuitive. After you go through a trauma to your body, like childbirth, you'll become more intuitive. What else? Certain points within your life contract, you'll get that increase. But grief is the biggest one that really, really opens people up because the veil, you're closer to the veil between worlds. Okay. And we don't know the signs of spiritual awakening in today's society. It is a complete and utter breakdown. We love to say woo woo. Spiritual awakening is depression. Kundalini is a detox. Kundalini rising, spiritual awakening. These are, we're going to different languages here. The meaning is the same. So when you awaken, you are detoxing. You are going through loss. It is confusing. It is depressing. You have anxieties increase, but all this awakens the nervous system. It awakens the heart field. And the heart and the mind are connected to your intuitive intelligence field. So is your gut. This is why the heart, brain, and gut are all affected through grief. So you're more psychically open. That is a fact. Okay. And you will start to have increase in synchronicities, vivid dreams, usually right after grief or you lose somebody, the visitation dreams aren't quite there yet. Usually you're not ready. Your loved one will wait maybe a year, 2 years even, it's common to have no visitation dreams directly after your loved one transitions. They're waiting for you to be ready, okay? They're waiting for you to be ready. But you will have the vivid dreams and you will see more signs. And you'll also have this knowing of like a presence is watching over you. And you don't want to cross that off as delusional. They are not gone. They are unbodied. So you need to get help with your spiritual awakening. I have a great book. It's $13.99 at jojoempathic.com under services. You'll see Spiritual Awakening with Ancient Intelligence. Read the book. It is the perfect guide to help you with understanding spiritual awakening and Kundalini. So a lot of times at this point, some people never make it out. You'll get hit with a bout of depression. They'll never make it out and they'll write themselves off as mentally ill or sick for the rest of their lives. They'll stay on these pills and they don't need it. Now, I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe or diagnose, but I do know that spiritual awakening is no joke and it is a choice. It is a divine spiritual initiation and activation, personal relationship between you and the universe that you want to invest in understanding. So I'm so glad you're here today because you have been led. I do help individuals through grief. I am trained in death coaching and from a mediumistic perspective, okay, through a patent method. Now, I also work with the spiritual awakening population deeply by helping them to reconnect with their lost language so that when all of this is happening, their abilities are opening up, they're hearing from the other side, they're seeing the other side. They're not just writing themselves off as mentally ill because often in the spiritual community, we're the most misdiagnosed. But there is hope. There is hope. And it's through your spiritual connection. It's through knowing who you are. It's through education. It's through integration. And I want to help you through this journey, whether it's receiving a message from a loved one on the other side. Evidential mediumship is the way of our human nature, the way of tribes across the world. Okay, the West has siphoned it. West has cut it off. And this may be why people grieve to the last of their days without ever finding healing. We're taught to cope. Western psychology teaches people to cope. Okay. Spiritual mentors and teachers will tell you to heal. We can help you to heal. We guide you to healing you. Empowerment, okay, is the key. I have a final message for you. For those that are grieving, grief is proof you are brave enough to love. Souls who avoid grief avoid love. Souls who love deeply will inevitably grieve deeply. And grief is the receipt for courage. If you are grieving, you are not weak. You are divinely expanding. The ache in your mind, your chest, your gut is love learning a new shape. Let it teach you. Let it deepen you. Let it make you gentler, more gentle. The ones we lose don't disappear. They become the invisible architecture of who we are becoming. Grief is like sacred soil. What seeds will you now plant, sow, and water to grow into something new? The choice is yours. Thank you so much.